Hello wonderful interpreters, and thank you again for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to give you an update and details of our meeting with the governor's office last week on August 20th. Let's get started. But before we do that, I'm going to walk you through the segment titled WFSE Local 1671 Shenanigans this week. Let's see what this is about today. As you can see right here, they emailed their interpreters earlier this week, and they're saying that they reached a tentative agreement for their union contract starting 2021 to 2023. And so, this is very hypocritical of them. And they're saying, although we were not able to win an agreement from DSHS to bring back jobs, they are currently offshoring. We did not allow the state to legalize this practice in our contract. So they're launching, as you can see, a whole campaign to demand these offshore jobs to come back. This is after they spent so much energy trying to get the LNI system and meddling into our affairs instead of worrying about their contract. So this was a big fail for them. Now, also you could see right here, if you read with me the underlined words, it says, we bargained modest wage increases of 12 cents per hour for our in-person hourly rates. In 2021, our hourly rate will increase by 12 cents to $42.32. Oh, wow. In 2022, we will either get a complete reopener to bargain higher in-person raises if the economy improves and the state agrees to a reopener with another union, or we will get at least a 12 cent increase to $44 if this doesn't happen. And this is, your union dues, DSHS interpreters, by the way, at work. So you get 12 cents. Now, what about these people right here? Michael Abate, Rod Palmquist, that's your council representative at work. You get 12 cents, and they get, as you can see, the first right there, Michael Abate, he gets $83,000 a year. Rod Palmquist, he gets $105,000. Okay, so you get 12 cents. And these geniuses that negotiated this contract where you get 12 cents, they get all of that money. How is that working out for you? And finally, look at the salary of Dennis Eagle, director, Legan Political. He helps draft the laws that they want to pass. He gets $128,000 a year. Those are your dues working for you. Imagine what they would do if they get the contract for the LNI system. They already got their company interpreting works. If they win union representation, this is what we could be expecting. This is shameful. Our meeting with Governor Inslee'S representatives and LNI staff. Now, if you remember my last video, I showed you these slides where we were granted a meeting with the office of Governor Inslee. And Caitlin Jekyll, she is a policy advisor for labor, Office of Governor Jay Inslee. She granted us a meeting. So we did have this meeting last week on August 20th, and LNI staff was present as well. Now you see Susan Campbell's name. She's retired. Heather Masters was there in her place. And also Tammy Phelan, Rachelle Davis from the governor's office, Tracy Winder from LNI, and Karen Jost. So we had that meeting for about an hour. Now, as you can see, the reason we had the meeting with the governor's office was for them to review the petition that we submitted to them to allow independent interpreters, LNI interpreters, to contract directly without restrictions with a dual system. Now, this is how we opened the meeting. I'm going to show you exactly what we presented to them in a short version, the key points that we made, and the response that they gave us. So please stay with me. Now, we told them that SB 6245 amendments that we submitted 2 years ago, I was actually one of the few interpreters that was able to pass these amendments. These amendments made the dual system we're advocating for possible. And so we started, with the law, and you see the three choices that these amendments, gave LNI. Number one, LNI must purchase in-person spoken language interpreter services directly from language access providers. Number two, or through limited contracts with scheduling and coordinating delivery organizations, or number three, or both. So they did have a choice to do the dual system, and it says again, nothing precludes the department from purchasing these interpreting services directly from language access providers. Those were introduced 2 years ago. We let LNI know that, and this section right here, this section has been a little misinterpreted. It says that the Department of Labor and Industries may pay a language access provider. This is second paragraph, section 4. For the costs of interpreter services when the services are necessary for use by a medical provider for emergency or urgent care, or where the medical provider determines that advanced notice is not feasible. We were telling these LNI representatives and the governor's office, this is not a restriction. This is merely stating that a provider can get paid for these costs when they're for use outside the scheduling system for emergency or urgent care. So this is not necessarily a restriction. They agree with that, by the way. Now, we were able to point to this document, questions and answers about the RFP. And if you see the underlined words there from LNI, of course, these situations will be defined in the future when it comes when a provider could go outside the scheduling system for an interpreter. And they're talking about these situations would include emergency and urgent care. And then we continued citing this document with questions and answers for the RFP. By their own admission, these appointments, emergency and urgent care, are only 20% of the total appointments of the LNI system. So if they're limiting us right now to only urgent care and emergency appointments, we're losing 80% of our workflow. This is something that we told LNI as well. So these are approximately 20% of LNI interpreter encounters, as you see right there. I mentioned this meeting that I had with Susan Campbell and a few interpreters on November. And so why did I bring up this meeting when we met with the governor's office? Because Susan admitted to a few things right here that we wanted LNI to be aware of. If you see the paragraph right here, it says, we can tell you that we've had input from psychologists saying that for mental health, they really need the same interpreter. Crime victims, you can pause and read this complete page right here. And they have gotten feedback from pain programs and providers that treat brain injuries, and they also feel the same way. So the point that we wanted to make is that LNI knew that most providers, especially in the LNI system for these dynamic appointments and especially pain management programs, they prefer the same interpreter. It is paramount for the health of the injured worker to have consistency also in the form of the same interpreter. Per Susan Campbell, the reason why they wanted to limit independent interpreters is because it says right here, we're trying to break some habits. And it says because we have some interpreters that are not behaving in a professional way, attaching themselves to individual workers in a way that's not professional, and we want to break that. So right from the get-go, we were saying, well, you say it's only some interpreters that behave in a very inconsistent manner, unethical way, but because of some, or let's say a few, you're changing the system that's going to affect the majority of workers, right? And then we also wanted to pinpoint the fact that Susan admitted to us that the decision to contract outside the department and give the work to a scheduling system and restrict us was from their program manager. This is something that it says right here. So the decision came directly from our program manager to have someone else do this. That way, scheduling firm will be responsible for quality assurance, meaning interpreters will work on a subcontract with a scheduling firm, so the firm is responsible responsible for the quality of the interpreters. We were able to pinpoint to LNI, you talk about quality assurance, but yet you don't want to be responsible. You want to give the best service to injured worker, but you are admitting here that you do not want to be responsible for that. And a scheduling system is just a system that's going to get a random interpreter, and providers are not going to be allowed to use the same interpreter that's experienced, knows the system, and knows how to help the injured worker the best way. The last paragraph right there, it says our program manager is the main person responsible for this, and she made it clear that she wants to contract out our interpreter program. It was a department's decision. And they're talking about how that issue could be revisited later. This was not something that the law obligated LNI to do so, okay? As you saw, the amendments, they had a chance to do this dual system, but they decided to go with the scheduling system primarily. So we were telling LNI key points for you to consider are SB 6245. This law does not restrict independent interpreters. Most providers prefer the same experienced interpreter in most cases for continuity of care for their patients. LNI, we understand, is trying to break bad habits from some unethical interpreters. Yet you are limiting independent appointments to 20%. The department says that it wants qualified interpreters for injured workers, but doesn't want to be responsible for quality assurance. So that's a little bit of a contradiction that we were able to point out to LNI. You want to care for the patient. You say you are for the injured workers, yet when it comes to the quality of interpretation, you're willing to dismantle the whole system that's been working so beautifully in favor of a scheduling system that you don't even know how it's going to work. Not only that, but you are restricting independent interpreters from working or limiting us to only 20% of the appointments, making us lose 80% of our workflow. So it's just, disastrous. We told them also it's always been LNI's decision. You can decide to have a dual system. Like anytime the local economy needs these jobs and patients need experienced, culturally sensitive, and qualified interpreters, a dual system will give LNI the opportunity to evaluate what is more effective, then reevaluate, let's say, a year later. They lose nothing by trying this out at least for a year, right? Most providers would benefit from using the scheduling system when needed while still being able to call the experienced interpreters that they know and trust. We have been talking to LNI about this ad nauseum for the last 2 years. We're not asking you to stop the scheduling system, but just allow us to work independently, to build independently, and not restrict what we do. Allow independent interpreters, to work without restrictions with a dual system. Now, this was LNI's stance. This is something that I wanted to share with you because they countered and they said they have to offer a substantial amount of jobs to the new vendor, which is not possible with a dual system in their opinion. They want interpreters to give the scheduling system a chance to work. Why would they say it's not possible to offer a substantial amount of jobs to the scheduling system? Because, well, it's going to be equal. Like a lot of providers are going to call the interpreters they like and choose, and some providers will call the scheduling system. So they wouldn't be able to fulfill that contract with them if they promised a substantial volume of jobs. LNI said also they have a contingency plan to bring all system back in case of another pandemic or if the new system doesn't work. This is something that we asked LNI. I remember Anastasio was telling them, look, if there is a pandemic or if this doesn't work, are you willing or do you have the ability to bring the old system back? And Heather Masters responded, we have the old protocols and they're going to be there in case we need to bring them back. And then lastly, they said they were not certain when the transition would take place at the time of the meeting, said they would email interpreters to let us know. So those were the key points of this meeting. And so to that we said, we understand that you have a contract. What we're asking is to allow us to work independently without restrictions. But I remember back in April, we said, please let independent interpreters work covering phone and video appointments when you already had a contract with Lionbridge in language link, and you guys decided to allow us to do so, and you still had a contract with these people. So the same way you had a contract with them, you do have a contract now with the scheduling firm, and you can, if you want to, if you make a policy change, you can allow independent interpreters to work without restrictions. So let me level with you, LNI interpreters. This petition has been heard by the governor's office, and we had this meeting on August 20th, as you see, and now it's the governor's decision to interfere and ask LNI to let us work independently or allow the transition to go as it is. We are expecting a call, hopefully by Monday. Are they going to allow LNI to continue with this transition, still limiting independent interpreters? We're going to find out. As of right now, we don't know when LNI is going to implement the system. They said they're not certain, but they would let us know. The law says September 1st, but they have said sometime in the fall. And so in the meantime, agency accounts, they said, as you saw in the announcement, would be deactivated early next year. So we still don't know many things. We don't have a lot of answers to these questions. They said they're working on them. So we will keep you updated. In the meantime, regardless of the outcome of this meeting, which I expected to be positive because I'm a positive person, we have to have this union. So please look in the description box for the link to our card. Print it, download it, fill it out, check the box for the appointment question and yes to the LNI question, and email it to us. The instructions are going to be in the description box. Thank you so much. And I want to take the opportunity to let you know that we're going to have a live stream this coming Monday. Okay, that's going to be August 31st from 7 to 9 p.m. We will send you the invitation, and we will be having special guests and talking about this transition and more details about this meeting and more news relevant to the process. Thank you. Have a great day and God bless. Bye.